Welcome to this in8secrets series on relationships. And we've covered in previous editions of this the agreement and how agreements are critical to our relationships. We've also covered in a separate one discovery and how in the beginning, early phases of a relationship, we're discovering more about each other and more about the dynamics of the relationship. So now I want to continue with this theme into investigation. This is a place where those who suspect they're innately wise, brilliant and powerful come to learn how to transform their lives, one cognition, one realization and one blinding flash of the obvious at a time. We are the innovators, the record breakers, the world makers and creators of all kinds. We supersede the suppressive worldview of mass ignorance and awaken the strength within. We are waking up to our innate secrets. My name is Dr. Mark Postles and welcome to the in8secrets podcast. Our investigations where we dive deep and explore the details. This is how we find out more about what it is that makes people tick, what it is that makes a relationship work or not, and what we need to be aware of going forward. So the first challenge in this context is being aware of yourself. And the relationship is always a reflection of us, and our ability to relate to the relationship is a reflection of us. So whether this relationship is romantic, it's a business one, whether it's a team, a group of friends, it doesn't really matter. It's still the dynamic where you are the center of it, you're the perception of it, and the challenge is to be able to discover firstly more about yourself, and then secondly more about those that you're working with. So within this there's angst and there's joy, and the perception and the interpretation of this angst and this joy rests solely with you, with me, with the individual who's perceiving it. So, others may do weird things, and the way that we interpret those weird things, the labels we put on those, and I'm using a label, weird things, then is the way that we get to experience them. So this is whether this whole question is it you or is it me that's creating this relationship to be rocky in a certain area, to be joyful in a certain area, and so forth. So, the challenge here, and for me, it's it's been a lifelong challenge, is to accept the responsibility for what I'm getting from the relationship, or what the sense I'm making of it. And I often hear people say, "Oh, he made me angry," or "she made me sad," and that's not true. The truth is that he or she may have done something, and I do sadness. So think of the that phrase that someone made you something as being so incorrect. It just does not give room for ownership. It doesn't give room for being a cause when we think that someone else made me as we are. We're always as we are based on our neurological process. And this is the essence of the innate model. It's the essence of innate secrets. That is all within. So taking that ownership then, we can ask then, how will this impact me? How will this impact us? So what's within the relationship that is a bit sticky, is potentially a problem, or could be a problem or a challenge, and how will it impact us? What's going forward? What will this do for our relationship or to our relationship if we don't do something about it? So this is as we're starting to dive deep. We're starting to investigate things at a more finite level. Initially, we may have just sort of look, glance over it and said, okay, that's fine, it'll all work out. Now it's a matter of saying, okay, how will it impact me? How can I work it out if this happens and that happens? So we're looking at scenarios because we're digging deeper into the relationship. And the overriding theme of this is then, well, how can we manage us? And that's a couple, that's a team, it's a group. How can we manage us? How can we bring about a solution to maybe some problems that are maybe global or very, very big, and within our sphere of influence with each other, how can we bring things together so that we can get the outcomes that we're after? So there's going to be a bunch of things that come up, and I'm sure you've experienced it. I certainly experienced it over the years, is that we have, and usually relics from our quadrant 2 part in our history, is rules about what happens or should happen in certain situations. So we've got our shoulds and our shouldn'ts, our musts and our can'ts. Our oughts and our ought not tos. These are the rules that we're having, as I mentioned in previous podcasts. The rules that we do for others, the rules we do for ourselves. So be really aware of this in terms of working deeper in a relationship with people, because they're going to have their rules, they're going to have their shoulds and their shouldn'ts, and you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And it could be from a cultural standpoint, it could be from a religious standpoint, it could be from a political standpoint, but there's areas there which people have taken on to be true in life, and they will run them, or they're run by them, really, because they're usually not examined. So part of diving deep into a relationship is to discover what rules a person has and what rules you have, and how do those rules match, how do those shoulds and shouldn'ts and musts and can'ts relate to each other. Because if you're, say for example, looking at, you may have an idea around, well, let's create more wealth in our life, and someone on the team or partner is like, well, no, you can't do that because you're brought up on the wrong side of the street, or you have a working class history, and therefore you couldn't even own something or have something or do something that breaks that mold. So that becomes something that's worth noting and worth working with. It's certainly not impossible to circumvent, but it's about being aware of it to start with. And then the essence of this quadrant 3 part of investigation is to dive deep into the details. So it's about looking at, okay, how can we handle things with certain methods or certain systems or certain procedures, given that we've now uncovered that, sure, there's some differences here, that you think we shouldn't, and I think we should, and I think we can't, and you think we can, and so we've established what that is. So then we can say, okay, what procedures can we put in place? Where are your strengths? Where are your superpowers? Where are my weaknesses? Where are the things that I need some help with? What systems can we put in place in our relationship that then allows things to get done, allows us to have end results that we're after, and at the same time, that so keeps with our initial agreement. But at the same time, it's making it easy. It's not making the rabbit become the best swimmer. Let the rabbit be a great runner, but the fish could be a great swimmer but not a great runner. So give the fish the job of swimming and the rabbit the job of running. Don't try and be everything to everyone, or think that you should be able to do it just because you've got legs or arms, or you know what I mean. So it's like making sure that you've got the right people in the right places, and you're doing the right job, or that your talents provide. And then another thing that's really critical, I think, in this context is the influence factors around a person. And this is their relationships, this is their history, this is maybe their family and their friends, their parents, even their grandparents and great-grandparents. What's the lineage? What's the and we'll spend a bit of time on another edition of this in this particular area, because it's really fascinating. But what are the stakeholders of this person? Who do they hang out with? Who's their influences in their life? Because they have a profound effect on that person in their decision making, and likewise for yourself. Who's the people that you identified with, and the groups and the cultures and so forth, because that's going to have a huge impact on you and your decision making. So this is where we're rolling out our culture. This is where our investigation is diving deep, and it's finding out, what are the real underlying things that drive us, and what makes us tick, what makes us work, and how are we going to be getting closer to that agreement and binding that agreement that we made originally before we went into discovery and then into this phase of investigation. So this allows us then to get closer with people. It allows us to cooperate, allows us to collaborate. It allows us to not have to be everything. There's an individuation that takes place when we have to be self-sufficient, and within a relationship there's no need for self-sufficiency. It's a relational situation, so that you can be weak at something and ask for help. You can be vulnerable, you can be open, you can be allowing yourself to be supported by others. So that level of cooperation is really, really strong at this point. So the probably the overriding key of this is to be grateful, and to be grateful for the small things. It's the getting out of bed in the morning and being grateful for your breath, being grateful for the sunrise and the food that you have, and the people that you have, and the birds that sing, and being grateful for everything that's around you. And it's not only being grateful for what's right and good. I think one of the big aspects of being grateful is being grateful for what's bad and wrong by your judgment, initially. Because as soon as you see something through the eyes of gratitude, even if it's really bad and wrong by your judgment, it becomes okay. It becomes divine. It becomes something that is okay to have in our life, because there's an okayness about every aspect of life if we choose to look for it. And so looking for the good in the bad is a really, really valuable and powerful way to investigate. It piques your curiosity and allows us to be far more investigative, far more delving without judgment, in a state of curiosity into life, and in this case into relationships. And that's what makes really, really strong and nurturing and enduring relationships. So based on that, play with it. Have a look at this idea of investigating your relationship to a far greater depth. So I'm Mark Postles, and I'll catch you on the next broadcast. Cheers. Let us show you how to fire your brain in ways that serve you, so that you can be confident, connected, and bring joy and passion into what you do every day. Get a free copy of my book, The Innate Model. Go to theinnatemodel.com/free book.